know how much money your local government spends in credit cards? They have, petty cash or taxpayer-funded credit cards that goes and spends on a whole host of things. Do you know about that spending? Well, a state legislator from Chicago Heights says that taxpayers should be able to see the monthly credit card statements for these local governments. And I had a conversation with him late last week as we were getting into the holidays, and I want to share that with you this morning. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I am editor of Illinois for the Center Square. Go to thecentersquare.com, get the headlines in your inbox each and every weekday morning. And talked with Democrat State Representative Anthony DeLuca. He has a bill that he provided an overview on of what exactly it would do when it comes to taxpayer-funded credit cards that local governments use.
Thank you. Really, the overall theme here is about being better managers of the taxpayer dollars. And House Bill 4196 is the bill that I filed earlier in November. And really, it creates more transparency with the use of a government-issued, taxpayer-funded credit card. So it would not prohibit the use and would not restrict the use, but it would create a better system of transparency so that the public is more aware. Too many times over the years, countless times over the years, we've seen headlines of overspending, credit card overspending, credit card abuse, and then at that point, the taxpayers they're outraged and they're demanding reform and accountability, and this creates more transparency with that process.
So DeLuca talking about the necessity of transparency when it comes to how the credit cards are used. And too often you might go to a city council meeting, for instance, and you don't really hear much about these credit cards and how they're being used because sometimes they have spending thresholds that they're allowed to do without approval. And a lot of times that could be, several thousands of dollars of payment for one issue that just doesn't get oversight, and that can add up pretty quick. So he's essentially saying that, listen, taxpayers need to know about this, how their money's being spent, especially when it comes to these credit cards.
Well, I think what it is that they want to see their tax dollars are being managed and that we are being better stewards of the tax dollars. Affordability is a big issue right now. Taxpayers feel like they're getting hit every direction that they turn. Property taxes is a big one in my area. It continues to rise every year. And when they see misspending of those tax dollars, it creates a lot of concern.
So a lot of concern that could be mitigated if there were monthly updates as to how these dollars were being spent and how that would play out at a, say, regular council meeting, be it local school board, be it park district, be it municipal government, village government, whatever the taxing body is that has a credit card that they're using to spend taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, exactly. The unit of government would have to specifically and separately approve and vote on an itemized credit card statement from the previous month's expenditures. So really all it's doing is creating more transparency and more accountability, you could say.
So DeLuca has this bill that he proposed last month, and it spells out that there needs to be this process so taxpayers have more accountability when it comes to their tax dollars being used on credit cards. He talks about what he could hear from the Illinois Municipal League. So you've got to understand, when you have laws being passed at the State House, all kinds of advocacy groups come out. I mean, we've talked about them, ranging from issues on firearms, like the State Rifle Association. They're an advocacy organization that supports fewer gun laws, while you've got other organizations like Everytown that it's an association that supports more gun laws, and they are regularly at the State House. Well, it even gets down to the municipal level, right? I mean, you've got the Illinois Municipal League, for instance, which advocates for municipal governments. And they are always on the lookout for new state laws that require municipal governments to do certain things that could be burdensome or or add to the levels of bureaucracy and the layers of bureaucracy, could cost taxpayers more money. So the IML is always advocating for less control from the state government on local governments. And I asked Representative DeLuca what he thinks that he may hear from organizations like the Illinois Municipal League.
Well, I have spoke to the Illinois Municipal League. I chair the House Cities and Villages Committee, so I work very closely with municipal governments and with the Illinois Municipal League and with local governments. I think the only concern that they may have is about the posting on the website. So this bill requires the separate vote. There's no cost, there's no additional paperwork really in terms of just having the credit card statement be approved separately with the bill run, or separate from the bill run, but at a meeting. It's more about posting it on a website where there could create a little extra time. Not much, but it could create a little extra time. And yes, technically it's another mandate. So we're going to be discussing that part of the bill.
And whether or not, the Municipal League will try to resist this idea, not sure. And is it going to be because they just don't want more mandates, unfunded mandates? And what do you think as a taxpayer on this issue of making each month's credit card statement something that's approved or voted down, at least just put on a public record for you, the taxpayer, to see what your local taxing body's doing with these taxpayer-funded credit cards? Is this an unfunded mandate? What does the Democrats from Chicago Heights think about unfunded mandates?
Well, I know that the taxpayers would be fine with it, but we're continuously. That's one of the bills that I filed in previous years about prohibiting unfunded mandates from the state. It's actually another piece of legislation that I dealt with because the state loves to impose mandates on units of local government, but we don't fund those mandates. So I'm sensitive to that. So even though it may seem like a very simple process just to take the itemized credit card statement and post it to the website, if the units of local government feel that that's an undue burden on them, then I would be willing to discuss it further.
So DeLuca is open to having more conversation about how this plays out and being enforced and giving taxpayers more transparency. In the conversation I had with the representative, he also shared thoughts on another bill he has that he says is a taxpayer-centric bill, saying governments cannot use taxpayer funds for guaranteed income programs we're seeing discussed and debated, or sometimes it's referred to as universal basic income. You have a pilot program that was launched a couple of years ago for parts of Cook County and for even the Metro East. I never really saw too many reports from the state government about those pilot programs, whether or not they were even funded, but there's ongoing conversation about these guaranteed income programs, and DeLuca has a bill he says would restrain that.
Yeah, I did file it's House Bill 60, and I didn't file this recently. This was from some time ago, and it would basically say that it would prohibit taxpayer money from being used for a guaranteed income program or a credit to provide an incentive, a financial incentive. So it would prohibit those type of programs, and it gets back to the same issue about managing tax dollars. People are paying a lot of money in property taxes. Certainly in my area, affordability is a huge issue. They feel like they're getting nickel and dimed by government at all levels. And when they see these type of guaranteed income programs, I'm hearing from my constituents a tremendous amount of concern. So what the bill does, it doesn't say you cannot have a guaranteed income program. You can have a guaranteed income program. You just can't use the taxpayer dollars to do so under my legislation.
So that's another bill that DeLuca has at the State House. And these are issues that could likely get bipartisan support. He's a Democrat and easily could get Republicans to sign up for this measure. What about other Democrats? Will he be able to get them to sign up for this measure? He says that clearly it's something that will draw a lot of people together to support both pieces of legislation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. I hear from my constituents, from the most liberal constituents I have to some of the most conservative. There's broad agreement on these type of issues. There's broad agreement on managing our taxpayer dollars as best we can, about not misspending, about preventing duplication, about preventing fraud. They don't want to see their tax dollars misused.
And he goes on to say he's going to continue to work on both of these bills to see them come across the finish line sometime early next year when the legislature comes back.
Well, I'm going to continue to work on them. I've already had a couple people reach out to me about wanting to be co-sponsors on them. So I'll continue to work on these. I think they're important measures, and it shows that we're trying to improve the way we manage the money at the state level as well.
So again, that's State Representative Anthony DeLuca with a couple of bills that he's proposed with a look at trying to curtail the spending of tax dollars, or at least to provide more oversight to taxpayers so they know how their money is being spent by local governments. All right, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning and go get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. You can sign up for the newsletter, but you can also get the podcast where you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus Daily.